Welcome. I'm so pumped that you guys are here. I'm just really excited. I'm kind of nervous, which is kind of crazy since I talk on the computer constantly. But I'm just really excited to be here and talk about this stuff with you. This webinar is like completely jam-packed with stuff for you guys. I'm going to try to make sure I get to every single thing and finish on time. So probably all of you already know, obviously, my name's Ann Kaplan, and I'm beyond pumped to be here with you guys today for this webinar, 3 secrets to raising great kids without losing your sanity. And that's pretty much, I think, what we all want. Right? It pretty much synopsizes it all right there. Great kids, not crazy. Yes, please, right? So I really just want to take a second before I dive in and say thank you. Thank you for being here live because you're doing yourself a huge service. And thank you for giving me this time whether you're here live or not, because I know better than anybody, mom of 4 kids, mompreneur, like I know how important time is for us, how valuable that is. And the fact that you guys are giving me a little bit of that right now is a huge vote of confidence. And I'm going to do my best to absolutely honor that 1,000,000%. So a little bit of housekeeping before we get going. First of all, I really want to encourage you to take notes because first of all, you're going to get great stuff out of this that you're going to want to keep implementing after, but also because, like I said, I'm going to be doing a live Q&A at the end, and so if questions come up for you or whatever, I want you to have those on hand so you can ask them. And like I said, you can always post them in the chat thing. And then the other thing, housekeeping wise, is Zoom. If you ever not used Zoom before, or if you have, I'm always learning new stuff and I use it every day. But I'm going to be sharing my screen with you. I'm actually going to do that right now so you can see my slides. So when I share my screen with you, if you are on your computer, my biggest tips for you are to, first of all, go into full screen mode. So how you do that is you'll have like a little icon that looks like the 4 arrows going out and like a little square. That's your full screen mode. You want to go into full screen mode, and then what you really want is for you'll kind of get like 2 like picture-in-picture things. What you really want is for me to be the big part of your screen and for my slides to be the little part of your screen. So if it's not that way, it's super easy. You just go to the little there's like a black bar that's at the top of your like picture-in-picture, and on the right-hand side of it, there's like a little icon that looks like picture-in-picture. It looks like a square with a little square in it. Just click that. It'll flip around. This is just my suggestions to you guys because truthfully, mess around with it however you want. And especially if you're on your tablet, your phone, whatever, you'll figure it out. And I'm recording this on a separate computer, which I'm going to jump to for 1 second and get it set up just the way I just described to you. You're going to hear me clicking on my adjacent computer. Watch how fast I do this. See, I'm back already. So, technology, it's a blessing and a curse. Am I right? I think so. But anyways, I'm so glad that you guys are here with me. I'm so glad that we're getting started. And I want to get the first little quote-unquote housekeeping thing of any presentation out of the way. Every time that I give one of these talks, every time I talk to a marketing expert or a business coach or whatever, they always say, Ann, when you're giving a talk, before you even get started, make sure your audience knows who you're talking to. Make sure they know who your presentation is for. So I'm just going to check that box off right now and tell you that I completely designed this webinar for every single mom who is tired, frustrated, and frazzled and sick to death of repeating herself all day long and getting no results. So I guarantee that as a parent, you felt like that at least once. I know for sure I have. So you're definitely in good company. And I just want you guys to know that you're in the right place, okay? So if you find yourself constantly yelling, repeating yourself, nagging your family, and it feels like you're just screaming into a black hole for the amount of response you're getting from the people around you, you are definitely in the right place. And if you find yourself losing your temper on your kids, but you just cannot seem to figure out how to mom calm, so to speak, this is for you. I'm so excited that you're here, okay? Because today I'm going to be spending this time with you proving to you that it is possible to have kids who listen the first time we talk. It is possible to have a life where we might go hours, days even, without yelling. And I'm going to show you that it's possible to have a life where you like have a life, like with friends and hobbies and stuff like that, like dare to dream, right? Okay. That's why you guys are here. And it's possible to do all that stuff while having the greatest kids ever and raising these amazing human beings, which is our biggest and most top priority. So by the end of the time that we have together, you're going to have a ton of food for thought, for sure. But also, I want to make sure that you guys have some tools so you can hit the ground running and start implementing this stuff right away. Because what I'm talking about today in this seminar is a little piece of the step-by-step program I do with my clients called Whole Woman Happy Family. And I see it work every day. So if you hear me saying Whole Woman Happy Family, or if you see on these slides where it says WWHF, that's what I'm talking about, just this program that I use with my clients. So I really hope that the stuff we're gonna do today is gonna inspire you to believe that your family can be what you want it to be. It really can. And to give you a few tools to make it happen. And the coolest part that I didn't tell anywhere on any of the marketing for this event is that every single one of you guys that's here with me today is going to get a free one-on-one coaching session with me to use to really make sure that all the stuff that we talk about today sticks and apply to your unique situation. So that's really exciting. So I'll tell you more about that later, but right now I just want to give you a little bit of background on me. So most of you guys know me as a parent, coach, and a birth worker, and a mother of 4 kids. I'm a birth doula, I'm a childbirth educator, I work with parents every day on behavior and all the rest of their lives. And most people who know me and my family, we think that we have some really awesome kids, including me, and that our family for the most part runs really great. I have 4 kids. Their ages are 4, 9, 11, and 13. And we definitely run our family on our own terms, as you can see in this hilarious slide of us acting like complete idiots. And I'm really proud of that because it took me a lot of work to get to the place where I was like, you know what, this is how our family works and I love it. And as a mompreneur, I spend my time working my ass off to help other moms to take their life into their own hands and figure out their own path. And find a way to get the respect they want from their kids and their partners, and make their lives as awesome as they want it to be, and find ways to raise incredible kids and pursue their own ambitions at the same time. So through the growing Facebook community, Mommy Experience, and through my private services as a birth worker and a parent coach, I get to help moms find their own path every day. And for the most part, my clients love the individualized game plans they get from me and the accountability they get from working one-on-one. And I get to spend my days uplifting women, which is freaking amazing. So, but it wasn't always like this for me, okay? It wasn't. You know, like so many other women of my generation, and I think men too of our generation, I inherited a family and a societal legacy of anger, shame, judgment, totally absorbed it throughout my entire childhood and immediately started vomiting it all over my kids the second they came into the world. So I pretty quickly found myself yelling at my kids and my partner, you know, feeling horrible about it, and feeling totally helpless because the behavior wasn't changing. So I'm yelling, I'm doing awful things, and it's not even getting the results that I want for my kids. I would hear myself saying stuff to my kids that I remember my mom saying to me, and I would feel so ashamed. I could barely look myself in the mirror, you guys. And I'm gonna tell you one story that I had to really psych myself up to share this story with you, but I'm going to. I have a very distinct memory of getting so frustrated with my oldest son, Elijah, who is 13 now, but at the time he was about 3, and I had my second son, River, was a baby, and he was refusing to put his coat on, and I literally got down to eye level with him and screamed in his face, Elijah, if you don't put your arm in the sleeve of this coat right now, I will rip it from your body and stuff it in there myself. I said that to my son. I said it, and I felt terrible. I have dumped my emotional crap on my kids. I have blamed them. I have lectured them. I did it all. So if you guys have had some shameful moments as parents, you are in good company, I promise. Thank God it's not like that anymore. But it really was. And I felt over and over and over again like I'm failing my kids, and I'm so angry that they won't listen to me. They won't do what they need to do. They won't do their chores. And parenting that way was totally destroying our family. It was awful. I was miserable, but even worse, like the kids were totally out of control. It wasn't even working. Their behavior was awful. Elijah would hurt River for no reason. I would come downstairs and find a kid like standing on the dining room table, swatting at the chandelier. And the worst thing of all, always, always, always fighting. The kids were constantly fighting. So am I really proud of these moments that I'm telling you about, these stories I'm telling you? Hell no, I'm not. I'm not. But because I have the job that I have and because I work with the kids that I work with or the parents that I work with, I know from experience that we all have humiliating and awful moments as parents. And I bet every single one of you can think of at least one parenting moment that makes you feel about 2 inches tall. The only difference between you and me is that I get to stand up in front of all of you and share my shame on a public forum. So at least you guys get to keep your secret, your shame secret, right? But this is to suffice it to say that, first of all, no judgment, okay? No matter where you are in your momming journey, I totally empathize with you. And second of all, to say, like, I wasn't always like this amazing parenting expert by a long stretch. So I want to tell you that because I know that you guys are going to connect with what I'm about to share with you, what I want to talk about, which is that look. The look that your kid gives you while you are losing your SH on them that says, Mommy, I don't know why you're acting this way, but it's totally freaking me out and I feel pretty bad about myself right now. That look that makes you feel like the worst human being who has ever lived in the history of the world, I know that look. I know it really, really well. First of all, because I used to give that look to my mom all the time. And second of all, because I've seen that look on my kids' faces, and thank God, because that look was a wake-up call to me to realize, like, I need to do something different. This is not working, and this is not who I want to be. And it was kind of my, like, you're turning into your mother alarm of, like, let's get this show on the road. It is not going to go down this way for the next 18 years. So what did I do? A lot of stuff. I got a therapist. Someone's drawing on my screen. Someone's drawing. What's that? We've never seen that before. If anyone's drawing, I think you're in the annotate phase. So let's stop that, please. Out for someone's birthday. Okay, well, thanks for sharing. I'm going to manage participants right now and stop the annotation, hopefully. I'm not sure why that's happening. Well, whoever is doing that, if you can look and see if your maybe kid has gotten a hold of your phone and accidentally started using the annotate button, that would be really great to remove that. I don't know what else to say. Anyway, okay, I think we're back on track. There we are. Yay. Now you guys might have to redo everything if it's messed up, but let's get going again. Anyway, that look, the look, that's what I was talking about. The look that your kid gives you that makes you feel so awful. And that was the wake-up call for me. I started working with a therapist, taking parenting classes, training myself as a parent in parent education because I really wanted to learn how to be better. And once I did start learning, I was hooked. I became a childbirth educator and a birth doula so I could help parents get started off on the right foot. And I started investing in myself, my physical health, my nutrition, everything. And it was great. And I got to work with hundreds and hundreds of moms in all different stages of their motherhood. And it took me a long time and a lot of those break your heart looks before I started parenting the way that my kids deserved. And the way that was going to allow me to get out of this whole momming experience with my sanity and a shred of dignity on the other side. And you know what I learned, you guys? Two things. My kids loved me the whole time. That whole time that I was worried they hated me, or that, you know, I was a terrible mother and all of that stuff, not necessary. They loved me the whole time. And that is really important, but it also necessitates a second great thing that I learned, which is it is possible to have a happy and healthy family and a happy and healthy mom at the same time. Yes, it is true that our kids love us no matter what. We get that unconditional love from them. But that means that we don't have to waste our time worrying they hate us or hating ourselves, but we do need to spend our time honoring that unconditional love by figuring out how to give them the opportunities and circumstances that allow them to become the happiest, healthiest versions of themselves. So I have done a lot of learning, training, experimenting, soul searching, and what I like to call overeating up over the last 14 years, and I don't regret even 1 second of it. Even the crappy parts when I yelled horrible, unforgivable stuff at my kids, because the life I have now, the family I have now, and the career I have now could never have existed without all the other stuff that led up to this moment. And this moment is awesome because I get to share with you guys a little piece of Whole Woman Happy Family so that you don't have to do all this crazy amount of work and self-discovery that I did all on your own. It can be a hell of a lot easier and faster, I promise. And that's what we're going to start talking about today. So I keep talking about Whole Woman Happy Family. What is it? Whole Woman Happy Family is a comprehensive parent coaching program that includes one-on-one coaching support, personalized success systems, self-study, and continuous group support. Everybody in the program gets guidance on all the facets of mom life because they all contribute to who we are and make us whole women, okay? So it's great to talk about all this discipline stuff, but in actuality, a comprehensive parent coaching program is not comprehensive if it only focuses on discipline, okay? So we talk about discipline, yes, but time management, meals and nutrition, relationships, health, me time, self-care, goal setting, all of this is to say that it wouldn't be possible for me to share the whole program with you today. But what I am going to be doing today is sharing this discipline part of the program with you, a little piece of that discipline aspect, because it's what I hear from my clients all the time is one of the most helpful parts of the program, okay? So we're going to spend some time pinpointing why we lose our temper on our kids all the time. What is this biggest mistakes that I keep talking about that we're inadvertently doing that keep us trapped in this like cycle of fighting, okay? And we're going to talk about how to get our kids to listen the first time. I'm going to give you guys some really simple tools to get them to behave without repetition and nagging, and how to mom without losing your cool, how to stay calm in those stressful mom moments, okay? So that we can get a little sanity and a little balance in our lives. You know, I hope that by sharing this little piece of the program with you, you're going to leave here with a renewed belief in your family's potential and get excited to start making it work. And especially if you decide to take me up on your one-on-one coaching session, I know that you can have a huge transformation really quickly. So let's get started. Oops, I gave away a secret. I wasn't supposed to push that button yet. So this webinar is called 3 Secrets, right? Well, I better be telling you 3 secrets. So let's get down to it. The first secret to getting well-behaved kids without losing your mind: get your kids invested. Or as I like to say, care less than your kids do, okay? Which brings me to these 2 points that I keep promising to tell you. Why do we lose our you-know-what on our kids in the first place? And what's this biggest mistake I keep talking about, okay? Why are we feeling trapped in this like misbehavior, mom bomb cycle? So why do we lose our temper on our kids, and why does it matter why? I think we all know that we don't want to be losing our temper on our kids. It's super destructive for them. It's really ineffective, and it feels terrible, right? And I know that I feel like a huge monster when I'm being super grouchy with my kids, and plus their continued misbehavior definitely doesn't help me feel any better, that's for sure. So if we want to know how to quit feeling this way, we need to first figure out why we're feeling this way. So why do we lose our temper on our kids? The same reason we lose our temper in any other circumstance. It's because we're frustrated, defeated, and exhausted. And how do we get to be in this situation? Because we were stupid and had children, right? That's my cynical side coming out. That's my first reaction to that question. But You wouldn't be here today if you really believe that. So I do promise you that it is possible to be around your kids and not want to pull your hair out. And for me, the first step in fixing that problem is to understand its origins. I know for myself that I feel frustrated, defeated, and exhausted when two things are happening. One is that I am running around like a chicken with my head cut off, doing way too much stuff all at the same time. And the other is that I'm repeating myself like a crazy person. So this might sound like an oversimplification, but I really want to challenge you right now. Ask yourself, think of the last couple of times that you were really frustrated with your kids, and ask yourself, were you running around like crazy? Were they doing something that you had already asked them not to do a million times? Or were they not doing something that you had asked them to do a million times? Were they doing something that they already knew that was against the rules, meaning you already told them a million times a while ago? I bet that when you sit down and think about it, almost all your mommy breakdowns can be boiled down to these two main causes: running around and doing too much, and repeating yourself constantly, okay? So, and yes, in case you're wondering, it does count if it was your partner who is committing those offenses and not your kids. I really do feel that those are the two biggest contributors to this mom bomb situation that we feel over and over again, that inevitably leads to yelling, totally ineffective discipline strategies, and that, you know, we all resort to them when we just are out of control and we don't know what to do. And guess what that leads to? Nothing. No change whatsoever. Our kids don't improve their behavior, and we're left with kids who are totally uninvested, they're fearful of us, and they don't believe in themselves. And this situation is so nuclear toxic, you guys, that it is got to stop, okay? And so when I work with coaching clients, we work really hard to improve all the parts of this cycle to turn it into something completely different. But even just learning what's going on is a major first step. So right now you might be thinking, oh, I get it. The biggest mistake that she keeps referring to is this behavior of repeating ourselves and multitasking. And if you follow me online, I don't blame you for thinking that, because you've probably seen me in at least one video harping on this multitasking thing. And you're right, I hate it. It's the devil. And we always talk about that in Whole Woman Happy Family. But in my opinion, right now, that's putting the cart way ahead of the horse. What I really want to draw your attention to in this cycle that I'm talking about is that little word that I just said, uninvested. Uninvested. That's just a fancy way to say your kids don't care. They don't care nearly as much as you do about their behavior. You care way more than your kids do, and that's the problem. That's the mistake. If they know that mom's going to take care of things and there's really no downside except perhaps this explosion that happens all the time anyway, so whatever, why on earth would they listen the first time or even fifth time you ask them to do something? And that's why I jokingly call this secret, care less than your kids. Now, does that mean that you should lower your investment in your kids or how they behave? Of course not. It means that we need to parent in a way that lifts up our kids' desire and investment in their behavior above our own. They need to care more about their behavior than we do. That's the get them invested part of this message. Okay, now how do you do that? The fancy parenting jargon word for it is natural consequences. Natural consequences is just a fancy parenting term that means when kids make unfortunate decisions, unfortunate things happen. You know, like kind of like how the real world works. Like, oh my God, what an amazing concept that we could be preparing our kids for the real world while we're raising them. Like, I think we all set out with that intention in the beginning, and natural consequences is proven to be like the best way to make that happen, okay? So sometimes we have to engineer those natural consequences, like, oh, kids who don't protect their teeth by brushing don't get to have sugary treats. Or sometimes they just naturally occur just because that's the way the world works. Like, for example, kids who don't save their money can't buy a toy at the store, okay? But one way or another, natural consequences make a huge impact in the raising of our kids because they teach major life lessons while also improving the behavior in the immediate present. So think about what I'm saying. I'm saying that this is a technique that can get your kids to behave themselves right now so that like your life is a million times better. And at the same time, you are teaching them and investing in them as adults, in them as their future selves. It's amazing, you guys, okay? They allow us, these natural consequences allow us to discipline without anger or shame, which improves our kids' self-esteem and gets better results. and they minimize fighting and back talk, because they put the kids' focus back on themselves and their own behavior instead of giving them an opportunity to blame everyone else around them for their circumstances. And I bet you can think of some adults that could really benefit from that lesson too. So think about yourself as a parent giving these life lessons to your kid that some adults still need to learn, right? And above all, the simplest way to explain what natural consequences do is to say that they help kids give a crap. They have skin in the game, and that means that they want to do the things that you asked because it matters to them. So natural consequences, obviously, huge cornerstone of my parent coaching. And with my clients, we always talk about the 5 biggest tools for natural consequences and all these different ways to implement them so that we have something in our back pocket every step of the way, whatever momming situation comes up, right? Now, obviously, I can't go through all these methods today. That's a matter for a whole nother seminar. But what I want to talk about right now is one technique that you really can use right now, and it's going to be great. Which brings me to my second secret. Secret number 2 to getting great behavior from our kids while staying calm is no reminding, or as I like to say, shut your trap. It's so hard, right? But let's think about this. Why? Why don't our kids care? Why? Because we trained them not to care, you guys. When we go around reminding them, repeating ourselves, doing everything for our kids, and basically being super mom, we are constantly giving the message that they don't need to worry about it because mama's got this. And it's even worse than that, because the more you just order your kids around and repeat yourself, the lower your authority and the less likely their cooperation become. Because each time you tell your kid to do something that you actually can't make them do, like eat your veggies, you're giving 2 self-defeating messages to your kid. 1, I don't think that you are smart enough to even make your own decisions or hear me the first time I talk to you. And 2, I'm totally powerless to enforce anything that I say. So obviously, we're not intentionally going around giving our kids these crazy messages, and we don't want to do that, well, because first of all, they're crazy, they're totally messed up, but also they're not even working. They're not getting our kids to behave better. So let's think, how can we flip this to get great behavior and give great messages to our kids? One of the biggest gifts that we can give our kids is not giving them anything at all. It is simply this: stop repeating yourselves. Okay, stop it. Eliminating this nagging, reminding, and broken record behavior from your life does 3 major things. I like to call it the triple whammy of no reminding. First of all, it holds your kids to a higher standard, which gives them the message that you believe in them and their capability. Okay, your kids will live up or down to your expectations. So raise the expectations of your kids. Believe in them, and they're going to believe in themselves. The second thing it does is it relieves you of one of the biggest sources of anger and yelling, which is repeating yourself. That is so frustrating. Of course we're frustrated and yelling all the time. Repeating yourselves while people ignore you, I mean, of course, who wouldn't go crazy, right? And it gets way better behavior from your kids. So hello, why wouldn't we try to do this, right? So now, if I were you listening to this right now, I would be saying 2 things in my head. So let's see if you and I are alike, okay? First of all, I would be thinking, how the hell is this supposed to get better behavior for my kids if they won't even listen to me when I'm reminding them? Okay, they're never going to listen the first time. That I would be thinking. And the second thing I would be thinking right now is this is actually going to result in me yelling even more, because they're not going to listen the first time. I'm going to wind up doing even more stuff by myself since I can't remind them. And I'm going to be even more frustrated, so I'm going to be losing my temper even more and yelling at them. So I really hope that you are thinking those things, because then it's going to be even more cool and dramatic when I show you in a second that that's not going to happen and this actually can work. So how? When I work with my clients and we talk about no reminding, we break it down into the ABCs of no reminding, okay, to break this broken record syndrome. So the ABCs of no reminding: ask once and give a deadline. I'm going to talk about that in a second. Ask once. B, be quiet. C, consequences. Ask, be quiet, consequence. Sounds really easy, right? Okay, well, let's break it down. This first A, ask once, is actually 3 things. Ask once and give a deadline. Okay, so ask. Why do I say ask? Because it means ask. say please, or say what you would like to have happen in a respectful way. Now, I know that we all want to think that we go around being super respectful all the time, you guys, but all of us are guilty sometimes of slipping into that dictator language sometimes. So just say please, or speak for yourself in a respectful way and say, I would really like for this to happen by such and such a time, okay? Ask, that's all. Once means once, say it once, okay? Even if you think that that kid didn't hear you when you said it the first time, you cannot repeat yourself. And we'll talk about this when we get to the be part, the be quiet part. But the trick for getting your kids to listen the first time and to actually feel good about being quiet, make sure you get their attention before you ask, because after you ask, you can't say, did you hear me? Did you hear me? No, 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 no. So make sure they're listening before you ask. Get down to their eye level. Really make sure they're listening, because guess what, you guys? Kids aren't the only ones who are guilty of half-assing, listening, and interacting with the world around them. I mean, how many times have we just said something over our shoulder like, hey, will you take a trash out or whatever? We don't even know if the kid is in the room or even in earshot, or if they were like looking at a screen or reading a book or talking to somebody else. They just genuinely might not have heard you. So eliminate that from even the possibility. Get down to your kids' eye level, make sure you have their attention, and then ask nicely, okay? Now, deadline. Why give a deadline? Because it gives kids way more autonomy and agency. There's a huge difference between saying, take out the trash, and could you please take out the trash before bed? That's a big difference. Put yourself in your kids' shoes. How would you like to be spoken to all day long? Okay, so asking once and giving a deadline increases the odds that they're actually going to do what you ask. Now, I also wrote on this slide, speak for yourself. And what does that mean? It means just that. Say how you feel, say what you want, and what you will do. You, okay? So speak for yourself means that you would say, I would like for the dishes to be put away before we start the movie, instead of you have to put the dishes away. Speaking for yourself and using I statements is a great way to help you stay on the asking end of the asking ordering spectrum, okay? And we want you obviously to be asking, not ordering. And it helps you avoid this trap of accidentally saying stuff that you can't follow through on. Okay, so that's A. B, be quiet. The next step is easy, right? You just sit back and don't say anything. Well, maybe for some people that's easy, but I know for myself, I have to really remind myself to bite my tongue, because I always want to just give them a little hint, make sure they heard me, especially if I know that a consequence is coming down the line. Ooh. So I'm going to give you a little jokey list of things that count as breaking this be quiet rule, okay? So if you're doing any of these things, you're still reminding your kid, okay? Loudly wandering around the house saying, oh, I sure hope kids have their shoes on in time. It would be really sad if that didn't happen. No, that's reminding, you guys, okay? You're calling their attention to something that they should already have their attention on, okay? That's reminding. Second example, saying to your kid, hey, do you remember when I asked you to put your shoes on? Hello, that's a total reminder. Third thing, A, saying, oh, it's almost time for school, and that's when you said you were going to put your shoes on. Okay, so all of those things are reminding, and even the crazy little pantomime stuff we do as parents, like walking by the shoes and seeing them on the floor and going, oh, I'm so bummed out, okay? Still reminding, you guys. And the last thing I want to tell you that is reminding, counting, okay? And the reason why I put counting in there is because a lot of times when I work with moms, they've already done a different parenting program or read maybe some other books that really suggest like this counting up, or count 3, 2, 1, or 1, 2, 3. You guys, counting is just training your kids to wait until you're done counting. It's not going to get them to do anything faster. And it's reminding, so don't do it. You just literally be quiet. And I'm sure that you can think of a million other ways where we could accidentally or purposefully break this be quiet rule. But I want to tell you one thing that I hope is going to help this stick for you and help you stay quiet. You actually want them to forget, okay? Because the best, most profound, lasting, and effective kind of learning that anybody can have, adults, children, whoever, is experiential learning. But you can't have experiential learning unless you have the experience of making the bad decision, the experience of having the consequence. So you actually want them to forget, because as soon as they forget and you implement that consequence, they're going to learn so much more from that one experience than they could from a lifetime of you nagging and reminding them. So we really do want them to forget, believe it or not. So if you skip this be quiet step, you're really negating the power of this whole no reminders thing. So I'm going to give you a little sneaky trick that you can use if you really can't stop yourself from reminding you just cannot put a sock in it. I don't really recommend that you do this, but if you really can't stop yourself, this is what I would do. Now, once you've asked your child and given the deadline, you cannot talk to the child again about it until the deadline passes. That's for sure. But what you can do is kind of talk about that with other people. Like if other people have fulfilled that commitment for themselves, like for example, if brother or sister has put their shoes on already, you can say things like, oh my God, you put your shoes on? I'm so proud of you. You're a rock star. I love you. You're going to have an amazing day. Way to go. Never do this in like a blaming comparison way. Like, oh, you're so much better than your brother. Why can't you be more like your sister? No, that's totally twisted. It's in a celebratory way. And you can even do it about yourself. You can say, I'm so proud of myself. I just got my shoes on. I feel like a rock star. I am ready for my day. Okay. So you really don't need to do that. I'm giving you guys these hints because it's the moms and the dads who struggle with following these rules. It's not because your kid needs you to do these little tricks and tips. It's because you might need them as crutches. But truthfully, honestly, if you really can believe me, you don't need any of this stuff, okay? You just need to be quiet. Okay, so that's the be quiet. C, consequences. If you can stick this landing, you are nailing it in momming, okay? When they forget, and notice I said when, not if, they're definitely gonna forget, and that's, good, like we talked about. When they forget, we need to implement natural consequences. As I said, there's many different natural consequence techniques you can use, and that is a matter for a whole nother seminar. But what I want to say about natural consequences in general is that they are different from punishment. They are not punishment. They are administered with no shame, no lecturing, no disappointment in their behavior. We're not disappointed in them. And they do not involve counting, like I said. And the best thing is that they don't undermine this message that our kids need to get all the time, which is the message of unconditional love and belief. That message of like, you can't shake me. Bring it. I love you so much. You cannot rock me, son. Okay? That is the message that our kids get when we deliver natural consequences in the most powerful way that they achieve all of that is because they are administered calmly. That is why I say, and if you've watched my videos on Facebook, you've probably already heard me say, it's all in the delivery. This is the other part in this 3-step process where you can really lose the teaching effects of this method, is if you start yelling at your kid. If you're so frustrated that they didn't listen to you, that you can't stay calm, you're going to totally undo all of your great intentions. Because the second we yell, we completely ruin this teachable moment. So there's a consequence, and that's definitely a bummer for sure. But the bummer is for your kid, not for you. There's no need for you to get upset. This is that moment when we really need to mom calm. So if you can follow these ABCs of the no reminders, you're going to see major behavior modification right away. Okay, imagine, I really want you to imagine a world where your kid listens the first time you ask, you never remind or nag, and you guys, you know what? You're actually going to start relying on your kids to be, dare I say it, helpful. Because when it's not a pain in the ass for you to ask them to do stuff, you'll ask them to do stuff more and they'll actually be more helpful. So you're yelling less and doing less work. It's glorious, okay? So it is totally possible if you stick to these ABCs and follow through on the natural consequences. Every time that you go through these ABCs with your kid, you're making a tiny little deposit in your mommy's sanity bank account, okay? ABCs of no reminding. Okay, so we've talked about this real root of these frustrating mom challenges, which is getting our kids invested. And we've talked about a powerful trick to get our kids invested, which is not reminding. Now I want to talk about this kind of making it all stick. And you might already be thinking of this as I was talking about the ABCs. So if you were thinking, oh, great, it's really important not to yell when I do the ABCs, so I guess I'm screwed because I can't figure out how to stop yelling. Well, That's the second trick. That's the trick of making all of this stuff stick. And all of these natural consequence strategies that we talk about in Whole Woman Happy Family, that's the third secret, you guys. It is momming calm. It's not losing your temper. And it is such a frustrating, sneaky, evil trick of the universe, which our kids misbehave. We get super frustrated. That makes, and yell at our kids. That makes our kids misbehave even more, which makes us yell even more. It feels like a perpetual, horrible downward spiral. But even though it might feel that way, I promise that there are little things we can do to escape this yelling spiral, okay? Because we know that the alternative, this mom bomb method of parenting, it's just not okay. Method of parenting, it's just not okay, okay? Why? Well, first of all, it doesn't work. Yelling and anger totally sabotage any positive effects from the consequence and discipline we're delivering. And why is that? Because kids crave intensity and emotion and attention. So seeing your explosive reaction, even if it's a negative reaction, even if it's kind of scary to them, it's actually encouraging bad behavior because it's sending a negative self-belief message and rewarding because it's giving them the intensity they crave. So when we yell at our kids, we're like undermining their self-esteem and rewarding their bad behavior at the same time. It's totally screwed up, and obviously none of us want to be doing that, okay? So on the other hand, when we stay calm when we're delivering consequences, we give the exact opposite message. We give them the message that no matter how they behave, our love is unwavering. Make a mistake, make bad decisions, doesn't matter. It doesn't change who you are, what your value is, or how we feel about you, buddy, okay? We're not going anywhere, okay? And the great thing about staying calm is it takes away their chance of putting their attention and blame on us, and instead encourages them to think about themselves and reflect on their own behavior, because there's no one to get mad at if somebody else isn't mad at them. Does that make sense? So above all these behavioral reasons why losing our temper is not okay, even worse is that it's really destructive for ourselves, for our kids, and our relationships with them. You know what, you guys? I'm going to go out on a limb here and guess that easily half of us, if not all of us, are carrying around challenges that we still have today with our parents, our emotional baggage that came from some really destructive stuff from our childhood. And, you know, takes one to know one, me too, right? So we know, of course, we know from research that this behavior is toxic, but what's I really want to try to get to you guys and resonate with you right now to inspire you is we know for our own experience, we know from our heads and our hearts and our own experience of living in that situation how toxic it is, and we know we don't want to do it. So some of us have to work really, really hard to break this family legacy that we're in danger of passing on to our kids. But you guys wouldn't be here today if you didn't already make a commitment to yourself to be better and to do it differently. So we know it's important, but it's also really, really hard. So it's easy for me to sit here and say, oh, mom, calm, don't lose your temper on your kids. Well, obviously, but how are you supposed to do that? Well, my clients in the Whole Woman Happy Family program spend tons of time learning lots of different techniques for momming calm. Because this mom calm concept has a lot of elements, okay? Your state as being calm or not being calm is not just informed by your discipline situation or what's going on right in this moment with your kids. It's fed into by all the parts of your life. And just like I said before, it would be a lie for me to call Whole Woman Happy Family a comprehensive program if all I did was talk about discipline with my clients. That would be crazy. So what do? We talk about mindset shifts for sure, like making different adjustments in your life, like make goals in relationships, getting alone time, having a multitasking breakthrough session, all of that stuff, just to name a few things, because that boiling over feeling that we get is a symptom of many areas of our lives being off kilter. So as we improve these things, that calm factor naturally improves too. But, okay, no matter how zen all the facets of your life are, I know firsthand, okay, that we still need help staying calm in the moment. And that's what I want to talk about. So I want to talk to you guys about one of the elements that we use in the program to help you in the moment to stay calm with discipline, and that's going to help you to deliver these natural consequences without losing your cool. And that strategy that I want to talk about is empathy. Because locking in true empathy before administering your consequence to your kids and showing empathy when the world just hands them natural consequences, it's so key. Now, how do I do that? It's different for everybody. You have to find your own way. But while I'm going to share with you just like the tricks and tips that work for me to stay calm and really feel empathetic to my kids when they're experiencing these consequences, when I'm working with my clients, we spend a lot of time figuring out your own way to do it. But I just want to tell you, first of all, a couple of like mindset tips that work for me when it comes to staying empathetic. And the first thing is the consequence that I'm administering to my kid is their consequence, not mine. If my kid has to go to school without his shoes on because he didn't get his shoes on in time, that sucks for him, not me. I don't have to be upset about that, okay? So it's really helpful for me to remember that. I don't know if that's going to be helpful for you, but I know it works really well for me to remind myself like, oh, why am I upset? Nothing bad's happening to me right now, right? And what really helps me remember that is this. We are parents. Our job as parents is to facilitate growth and change in our kids. You guys, there's a reason why there's an expression, growing pains. It's because change sucks. Change is hard. It's bad. It's really a lot of work. And so when my kids are, or when your kids are rebelling against a consequence you give them, throwing a tantrum because they have to be in their room, fighting back, saying, I hate you, you're the worst mommy ever, all of the fun stuff that our kids do when we're consequencing them, instead of feeling like, oh my God, I can't take this anymore, I want you to feel like, yes, because when it's the hardest, that's when the change is happening. It's working. The kids need to have that experience of disliking the outcome of their choice so that they learn that that choice isn't the best. It has to be uncomfortable so that they learn it. So when my kids are rebelling and being super mad at me for whatever consequence, I remember like, oh, this is when it sticks. This is the moment that it's making it stick right now. Okay, and the last thing that helps me stay empathetic is when I remember that the more empathy I show, the more that that I'm handing the problem back to my child. I'm saying, oh my gosh, buddy, that is such a bummer. What are you going to do about it? How are you going to handle this situation? Because I want to be raising a child who spends his life thinking, how is my next choice going to affect my life? And think about how amazing that is. It's making children who are conscientious and making good decisions, but also children who are learning like, hey, I have agency over my life. I have power to create and manifest the life that I want. I totally want my kid to be like that. I want to be like that, right? So it helps me to remember these three things. So when I can remember those things, now I can have these little how-to tips for you guys. When I remember those mindset tips, I can actually do what we always say in Love and Logic, don't get mad, get sad. When I remember those things, I genuinely can feel sad for my kid. And that's what the empathy is. The empathy doesn't mean that you don't give them the consequence or you don't stick to your guns. It just means that you stick to your guns and totally have sympathy for what your kid's going through at the same time. Okay, so it can be hard to learn all these life lessons for our kids, especially when I know that a consequence is coming down the line. But you guys, that's the best. So let's use the ABC example. I can see my kid is not listening. I can see that once that deadline comes, I'm going to be administering a consequence. That's the perfect moment for me to spend time locking in that empathy before I ever get to the consequence stage. My life is calm. It's the calm before the storm, right? The calm before the storm of me saying, hey, buddy, you didn't do what you said you were going to do, and here's what's going to happen. Before I even get to that point, it's my opportunity to think about, oh, look at that little guy. He doesn't even know what's going to happen. What a bummer. Okay. So I want you guys to think about that when it comes to this empathy thing. And the last thing I would say is, if you don't feel empathetic, that's okay. And at first you might not. And sometimes I still don't. You know, sometimes my kid's being such a little you-know-what that when I'm giving him consequences, I'm not feeling empathetic. I'm thinking like, yeah, buddy, you get what you deserve. This feels great. And it's okay. It's okay if you feel that way, as long as your kid doesn't know you feel that way. And that's why I say, fake it till you make it. So if you feel like you're not really feeling it on the empathy vibe right now, that's all right. Fake it. Say things like, Oh, that's too bad. What a bummer. I know just how you feel. I know I would feel the same way if I had made that decision. You know, I know that these things sound super stilted, but I promise you that over time, especially as your kid's behavior improves, which it will, you'll actually be capable of feeling true empathy for your kid. And I see it happen all the time with my clients who at first are totally faking it. And then we'll have a session 2 months in and they're like, I actually feel sorry for him. Like, I'm not faking it anymore. Because guess what, you guys, when you're not constantly being mistreated and disrespected by your kids, you have a really much better heart connection with them, and you actually can feel emotionally connected to them while you're administering consequences. It's glorious, okay? So this mom calm secret, this empathy secret can seem like the hardest one, and it is. I'm not gonna lie, it is the hardest. But it's totally worth it to do it. It's worth it to do the work, to figure out how to incorporate empathy into your parenting, because it's the secret sauce. It's a secret sauce that makes every single parenting strategy you use 10 times more effective. And if you can master it, you're golden. So I want to take a second and just talk about how I feel about all this stuff and really try to connect with you guys about that, okay? I waited years, way too long, before I was really willing to go for it and change our family and move away from this prison of misbehavior, fighting, exhaustion. And looking back, it's one of my biggest regrets that we all suffered that way. It was so unnecessary. But at the same time, super grateful for that, because I've learned how to help moms get that transformation a hell of a lot faster than I did. But I'm going to be honest with you guys, you know, I used to dread dealing with my kids. I totally did. Even the thought about trying to get them to do something, or even like going on a family outing together or whatever, it would just totally fill me with defeat and exhaustion before we'd ever even gotten started. So I always loved my kids, of course, but I'm going to admit to you guys, like, I hated parenting them. I hated it. I felt like I was a total failure all the time. I was working my ass off, but I wasn't doing it right. I was totally failing my kids. I felt awful. But now I can tell you also with all honesty that not only do I love my kids today, I freaking like them. They are awesome, and I love parenting them. Parenting is a pleasure, and they show me every day how cool and amazing they are. I feel so proud of myself for being an amazing mom. I don't have to feel like a failure as a mom anymore. I'm totally nailing it as a mom, and it feels amazing. And I know that the changes I made and how we raise our family totally saved all of us. So I know how profound even one meeting with a parenting coach who understands your unique challenges can be. Not to mention how effective it is to have this personalized coaching program. So usually my coaching sessions sell for $150 a session, but today I'm offering a free Balanced Mama Breakthrough session to every single person on this call. So if you're ready to share your personal experience with me and get some really customized advice, I really encourage you to take advantage of it. So, I mean, these sessions are specifically designed to help you get a sense of clarity about how you really do want to be momming and figure out the next kind of building blocks to get you to that place. Talking about the things that might be holding you back, what's stopping you from having this transformation, and what are the most powerful things that you can do to move you towards that. And by the time you finish your session with me, you're going to know exactly what to do next to shift this stuff. So I'm going to attempt to be super tech savvy right now and share the link with you in the chat field. Let's see if I can figure out how to do it. Ugh, it's so annoying when I'm in my little, okay, here we go. Chat. Oop. I'm going to be sharing this link with you, I promise. It's definitely happening. You guys are going to see what it looks like on my website when you book your session, which is right here. And now I'm going to go and share it with you in the chat field, the link. So you can just do it all by yourself. Perfect. Yay. Awesome. So I really hope that you'll take like literally 10 seconds to click on that link and book a session with me right now. So now, if you're like me, you're probably thinking, oh, I'm totally going to do that. I'm totally going to get this session, because You know, I want to get this one-on-one coaching. It's going to be amazing, right? I really want to have that. So as soon as I get off my computer, I'm going to go and do it. Well, okay, if you're also like me, you're probably also going to have every intention of booking this session and then totally forget about it. So we all do that stuff, but I don't want that to happen for you. This is an hour of free coaching that you can get from me. Like, I really don't want you to miss out on it. So I'm going to try to inspire you to take immediate action for yourself instead of putting yourself on the back burner like we all do as moms. So I've got a few incentives to try to help motivate you to do this. So first of all, I want to tell you that if you book your session within the next 24 hours, you're going to get a 30-minute follow-up session with me in addition. So we're going to have a session, come up with a strategy plan, awesome. Then we're going to follow up and talk about, like, how did it go, troubleshoot, what do we need to tweak, blah, blah, blah. The second thing you're going to get is membership in the closed Whole Woman Happy Family Facebook group, where I share coaching videos that I don't share anywhere else on the internet. It's a place of non-judgment where you can let your freak flag fly, explain and bare your soul to a group full of super sympathetic and non-judgmental people and get amazing support. And the other thing I'm going to throw in is a one-liner sheet. The sheet of things you can say to your kids when you cannot think of what to say to your kids, so that you can stay calm and keep that empathy on the forefront of your mind. You will not believe how many clients I have who take this one-liner sheet and put it up on their fridge so that they can think in the moment, okay, what do I want to say? Oh, love you too much to argue. Oh, that's too bad. Oh, I know, whatever it is. Those little one-liners that sometimes you need because you can't remember how to stay calm, right? So I really want you to book this session right away. Okay, so now I am totally done with my little presentation, and I'm going to once again escape out of here and stop sharing my screen so that I can see you guys and give you an opportunity to ask me any questions you want. I have a few questions that came in on the Facebook group, but before I answer those, I want to just give anybody here a chance to ask a question too. So any of you, if you have a question you want to ask, feel free to unmute yourself, or I can unmute. Well, I can't unmute you if I don't know you have a question. But unmute yourself and speak up. And it's totally cool if your video's off. It's okay if we only hear your voice or whatever. So I'm just going to be quiet for a second and see if anyone unmutes before I move on to the stuff that I had prepared for the Q&A.
I have a question.
Yay! Who is it?
Amanda.
Hi, Amanda. Let's hear your question.
So does this work with toddlers?
Yes, it works amazing with toddlers. In fact, if you're getting started with parenting right now with your toddler, you are ahead of the game. How many clients I have who hire me when their kids are like 6, 7, 8 years old and things have gotten totally off the rails. Toddlerhood is the best time to start, and all of this stuff works with toddlers like a dream. Toddlers usually respond even faster. Like, the younger they are, the faster they get it, because they're just like little sponges, and they haven't spent so much time learning the bad behaviors or the bad patterns and stuff.
Okay.
So,
because I have a toddler and a 4-year-old,
oh,
and my toddler's the worst one.
Yeah, totally. I mean, there's a reason why they call it the terrible. Anybody who says terrible things is really a great place. Yeah. Yeah. The age of your kids is perfect. Both of them are going to respond to this like really right away. I mean, really, what you're doing when you start parenting this way is teaching your kids, like, mom says what she means and means what she says. Don't test me because you'll find out. You know. But it's in a way that's not, that's really loving. So you feel really great about it the whole time. So yeah, I really encourage you to do it.
Perfect.
Awesome. Do you have any more questions, Amanda?
Nope, that's it.
Okay, great. I'm going to mute you again. And anybody else who wants to chime in with any questions? Laura and Ann, I see you're still here with me. You're awesome. And if you're not going to unmute yourself, I'm going to, there were 2 questions that came in on the Facebook group. One of them was what to do when you're disciplining, maybe using like timeout or the uh-oh song. If you've been working with me, you probably already know what the uh-oh song is. And your kid, whether it's a toddler or older kid, is so aggressive that you're afraid to like pick them up and put them in their room because they might hurt you. So I think a lot of parents have that fear, and sometimes it's well-founded and sometimes it's more just like a fear. But what I will say is there's other techniques you can use besides timeout if you feel like timeout is not going to work for you. If you're in a situation where you really just cannot physically pick up a child and put them in timeout, and you know that like just taking them by the hand and walking them to their room is not going to work, you can actually leave the room instead. The idea with the song or with timeout, at least when you're working with me, is not to punish the child, but to show the child that when they're acting a certain way, they need to be alone, and that other people don't want to be around them when they act that way. So if you can't lift and move your child, you can take yourself out of that equation instead. And so that's really awesome because you can totally do that easily. The other thing that you can do is delayed consequences and some other these natural consequences techniques that don't involve the song. So if anybody's struggling with worrying about like how feisty their kid is or whatever, don't throw out the baby with the bathwater. I know it's a terrible pun to use in a parenting webinar, but just we need to problem solve, and that's probably a situation where it'd be best for us to talk one-on-one. But it's suffice it to say, at least in this situation, in this forum, that it's not, all is not lost. And then the other question I got online that was from somebody who's registered for the webinar, but I don't see them on here. Her name's Carmen. She had a question about her son who was basically becoming really defiant about potty training. And the description that she had given was, you know, that he would purposely like pee in his bag, stand right in front of the toilet and pee on the floor while like smiling and laughing at her and stuff like that. So truthfully, in that situation, my suggestion is to just pause potty training, because the first thing we need to do is get the behavior on track before we start teaching something new like potty training. So if you are having the way that I can generalize this for all of you guys is if you're having a behavioral issue with your kid that seems to be tied to learning something new, a new life change, something new happening, it's okay to press pause on the thing that's new and just go back to the basics. Go back to the drawing board, get all that stuff really locked in, super strong, and then go and start introducing new things. Another way that we say that sometimes when we're learning love and logic is don't go and try to implement all of these strategies in the grocery store where you don't have a timeout space and there's tons of people around and you're not really seasoned at this. Get it on lock in your home before you go and do it at your friend's barbecue or whatever. So give yourself permission to learn things step by step and recognize if your situation is saying like, we need to take a step back right now. So those were the biggest questions that I got on the Facebook group. I want to give you guys one more chance. If you have any questions, what's going on with you right now? I know Laura and Ann have a little bit of older kids, so I doubt that they're worried about like kids beating them up or anything like that, hopefully. But, you know, whatever parenting challenges you have, you can think of a specific. I know that whatever question you ask will benefit the whole group. So last chance, guys. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I'm so glad that you guys were here with me today. I really, really strongly encourage you to take me up on my offer of the free session. It's a big game changer, and it takes all the stuff that we've talked about today and brings it into real clear perspective for you in your real life, in your unique circumstance. And I just want to thank you guys for being here with me today. It was amazing. I loved it, and I loved preparing this webinar for you. I think it was really amazing content, and I feel really proud of it. So have an amazing day. Thank you guys all so much, and I hopefully will be speaking to all of you soon. Bye.